Ladies and gentlemen, this is Coda Jacobs, the crusader and visionary behind a brighter future in wrestling. If you're an honorable and noble public servant like myself, you are listening to the Game Changer Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Wrestle Addict Radio Network.
Hey, what's up, you guys? What is going on, everybody?
What up, fam?
Hey, it's me.
What up, Oozes?
What's up, guys? This is the Monday Night Delight.
Are you looking for a network that brings you all things pro wrestling? Then look no further. Wrestle Addict Radio brings you a varied source of wrestling content.
What's going on, guys? This is Willie T.
My name is Mr Fretz.
This is your resident Smart Slayer.
Search for Wrestle Addict Radio on all major podcast platforms and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Buzz, guys. My name is Kate Murphy of the Kings of the Ring podcast, and you are listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you are listening.
And you are listening.
Get ready for a war, because you're listening.
Come join the war each and every week as we fight to keep wrestling real.
What's up, everybody? This is King Ricky Rose, and you are listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
Go! If you close your eyes, your life and make your truth reveal. Since you never lived, and scars never heal. In the darkness, light will take you to the other side. Find me waiting there, you'll see if you just close your eyes. If you just close your eyes. If you just close your eyes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the theme song of the one and only Christian Cage. And if you don't know who Christian Cage is, how can you call yourself a true wrestling fan? I defy you to not know who Christian Cage is. Of course, for a lot of you that are WWE loyal fans, that is, of course, the theme song of the one and only Captain Charisma himself, Christian. And the reason why we have that is because we are just a few days away. Actually, I think as soon as this comes out, it is going to be Canada Day. Ladies and gentlemen, I am NateFNGreat. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast, and I cannot think of anybody better than my favorite Canadian. Sorry, Danny, but he kind of comes first. The one and only Mr. Fretz. How's it going?
Drink it in, man. Dude. And once I heard Christian's theme, I just thought, oh, you didn't get waterproof blondes. Oh, I like the one with the female singer.
Oh, that's right, yeah. That was like
right out of WWE Day of Reckoning 2 for the GameCube. There's a Wayback Machine there for you. Oh. Yes, it is me. It is Mr. Fretz. It is the Canadian something. Can't think of a pun right now because I am running on very low sleep and night shift brain. But yes, you can find me at the legendary JF. You can find, Twitter and Instagram at the legendary JF. Facebook at James Fretz. There it is. There's the cheap plugs. And yes, we are on Wrestle Addict Radio at addict_wrestle. And don't forget to follow our friends, Nate. And who are they?
They are, of course, the Fourth Wall WrestleCast. You can follow them at Fourth Wallcast. We have the Nacho Mama soap opera featuring the one and only head oos himself, Mr. Jeff, at not_opera. We have Mance representing the Gift to Podcast at Gift the Podcast, which I do actually have one thing I want to say about him a little bit later on during the show. And also the greatest trio in all of royalty, that being the Kings of the Rings podcast at KOTR_podcast. All of these guys are a part of Wrestle Addict Radio. We're proud to be a part of the Wrestle Addict Radio family. We're proud to represent the brand for the former RWA. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to talk royalty like we said. No, I've already took my shots at royalty last week, and I haven't really heard anything from the royal man himself. So I think I'm in the clear right now. I know you wiped your hands clean of that one. His hands are completely clean. I'm the one that's like, yep, they're dirty. But, you know.
Oh, no, these are still dirty from work, and despite the fact I've washed them but not showered yet today.
So, guys, we're going to be getting... I don't know if I would say down and dirty with this one, but we are going to have a little bit of fun because we are going to be reviewing the 1999 King of the Ring event under the WWF banner. This happened on June 27th, 1999 in Greensboro, North Carolina. Wow, how many places have we, how many times have we heard that stadium? Not so much nowadays, but honestly, guys, this was a pretty good event. Attendance of 19,761. This, of course, had a few King of the Ring semifinals as well as the finals of the event. We also had a great ladder match as the main event, a WWE title matchup, and a very interesting, I guess I would say, underrated tag team matchup. But before we get into that, it's only tradition that any time we look at a blast from the past, we have somebody to take us back in that blast from the past. Mr. Fretz, if you won't mind, please take it away.
Little Wayne's World transition there for you, friends. Yes, there is a personal story connected to my Wayback Machine, but before I do, I have to let you know what's been happening in pop culture and movies, video games, songs, whatever, during this time in 1999. So you said it's the 27th. Today is the 20-year anniversary of that show, of King of the Ring 99.
Oh, shoot, you're right. Holy crap.
Yeah, and there's another, and what else do we have? Something that was released on the internet that completely changed the game and completely changed how we do everything online. And it's this little program called Napster.
Oh, shit. Really?
Napster came out 20 years ago this month, and everybody... And this was the precursor to, BitTorrent downloads. So back when you could download songs like on a 56K modem and only download maybe 5 or 6 before you completely fill your computer, Napster was your place. Of course, it was the precursor to things like LimeWire and Kazaa and all those ones. But now everyone just goes to Pirate Bay and gets their stuff from there. But yes, before Metallica ruined Napster, and you had to Google different words when you were looking for songs. Let's just say 20 years ago was a personal favorite album of mine, and that's Enema of the State by Blink-182. And let's just say in about 2001, when Napster started going down south and Metallica started getting the lawsuit out, you had to say, okay, Blink-182, how about Blunk 466? And then you get, like, What's My Age Again and all that. In theaters is a movie I saw when I got out of the hospital. I'm going to get into that in a minute. Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Oh, damn. That's right.
Tarzan. And speaking of Blame Canada, the South Park movie is 20 years old.
Holy shit. Those are like 3 great movies right off the bat.
Oh, I got one more. A personal favorite of mine from Adam Sandler, Big Daddy.
Oh, Big Daddy. Yes.
Big Kangaroo Song. It's like, apparently the kid in that movie is now, I think he's Jughead in Riverdale.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's like a set of twins. It's like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It's like twins playing the same part. In video games, it was pretty light. We had this one game. A lot of people like Counter-Strike, but I've never played it. But I think it's out of the Half-Life 2 engine. Pokemon Pinball came out for the Game Boy. And we were just mere months away from one of the greatest video games of my high school life, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
I got nothing really to say about Tony Hawk. I remember being that one kid that would play the Tony Hawk games, and I would always try to do like cool tricks, but also try to be like, how can I hurt Tony Hawk in this game? I don't know why. It was just one of those things where it's like, how can I white out badly in this game? I have a demented childhood.
I would just watch the Wipeout when you beat the game to get to unlock a whole bunch of blooper reels from like Wipeouts in real life.
Really?
So I'll just sit there and watch like 10 minutes of guys trying to do a grind and then knocking their junk off of a rail.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, but I believe the demo for this game was out in like PlayStation Magazine back when those magazines came with demo discs, and that just takes me back. Pre-internet demos, man. It was awesome. So now to get into a personal story, a lot of you know this. It's like, oh, Fretz, you're going to talk about this again. But no, June 21st this year, just last Friday, was the 20-year anniversary of my spinal fusion surgery. When I was rather young, about maybe 12, 13, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine. Like, I was at the doctor's office, and my mom's like pointing it out, say, Dr. Miller, does that look all right? He's like, let me get the chiropractor. He comes in, yep, you're going to have surgery. So that's a lot to take in when you're young. So over the years, I'd go to Toronto Sick Kids Hospital for your CAT scans, your MRIs, blood work, and all that before I went into surgery on June 21st, 1999. My curve was progressing at a really rapid rate, and surgery was the only option. I probably wouldn't. I'd either be severely disabled or not here to talk to you about it today if I didn't have it done. So what they did is, in about 10 and a half hours, they fused steel rods to my spine, took bone chips out of my pelvis and fused them to a couple of my thoracic vertebrae, and it corrected it. And I was in the hospital for a week. My mother, who is also a nurse at a retirement home, old age home, stayed in the hospital with me and helped me get around, helped me just get up to go to the bathroom, or just to sit up, or to try and get out of bed and rest up. My surgery was on a Monday night, so I was more concerned about missing Monday Night Raw. And a couple of days later, some of my friends came into the hospital and saw me. Among this friend was a youth pastor who's new in town. I barely knew him, but he cared enough to take a couple of my friends and come see me. So it was after that I started going to youth group and eventually church. Among the things I saw when I was in there is in bed I got to see the San Antonio Spurs win the 1999 NBA championship. The Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto, they kind of have their own TV station, like, in-house. So, and they always air, like, kids shows or something, but every morning from about 6 until 12, they aired, like, the entire Disney afternoon lineup. So, DuckTales, Bonkers, Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck, like, old school Mickey Mouse and Chip and Dale and Donald Duck cartoons, and it was fun. So that's one of many reasons I'm a big time proponent for Sick Kids Hospital, and especially with the thing I'm doing for my niece in August, the Sabo Beach 8K beach run. Check out my pinned tweet for that if you want to help donate to that, to the Bleeding Disorders Fund to Sick Kids. I remember watching. This is going to set up King of the Ring 99. So today. Sunday, June 27, 1999, is the day before I came home from the hospital. So I'm watching Sunday Night Heat for the first time ever because I didn't have the television station it was on. And I watched Sunday Night Heat setting up King of the Ring, and I'm just like, I turned to my mom and I'm like, I wonder if I can order this. And I think I tried to persuade her or persuade the nurse to try and see if I can get King of the Ring at Sick Kids Hospital. Sadly, but also thankfully, as we'll see later, it wasn't meant to be. So the next day, while I'm waiting for my father to come pick us up, I'm in the was that one of the library or something, going on WWF.com on Toronto dial-up internet in 1999, actually really fast. And I found out who won, and thank God I missed that. But one cool thing is there was a brief, there's two times that this happened. The Big Boss Man was in the middle of a quasi-face turn, or excuse me, not face turn. He came out, I think, to wrestle Viscera, but he came to the ring to Hard Times, his old face theme from the 80s. And then he came out to it on Raw the next night, unless I'm mixing them both up. This was just a bit of a tease and a bit of a nostalgia pop, I guess. But yeah, Bossman went back to the covert ministry. Spoiler alert. So yep, and yeah, this back pain. It's something I can. I felt some back spasms as I woke up today, as I was walking to my kitchen to get my breakfast. You get the So I still feel it today, but I'm glad I had it done. maybe there's going to be some stuff happening with it later in life as my spine gradually wear and tears, but big ups to Sick Kids Hospital for this, and for, Scoliosis Research Society of Canada, if that's a thing. And I have something to say about this first match.
All right. So, before we go deep into that, I said this once, I'll say it again. It's always a miracle, and it's really good that we still have you here with us, Fretz. So, for those that took care of this man here, thank you so much for having him be here today. It means so much to so many people. And guys, be sure to check out his pinned tweet. Definitely find a way that you can make a difference. All right. So now, into this weird kind of transition to the first matchup here. We have X-Pac taking on Hardcore Holly in a quarterfinal matchup in the Kings of the Rings tournament. Now, I will say this, that one of the things that I liked about this was that this is where they started saying, hey, this is where he's starting to become, actual Hardcore Holly. He's not just Bob Holly or
the Big Shot.
The Big Shot, whatever they wanted to, call him. He's now turning into Hardcore Holly. And it definitely shows in this matchup why he's got that moniker of Hardcore. They kind of talked about it loosely during the matchup itself, which I thought was a pretty good matchup. I thought X-Pac and Hardcore Holly put out a good one, but it ended with Hardcore Holly getting a steel chair, whacking at it on X-Pac to cause of disqualification, so X-Pac would advance, but it doesn't stop. Hardcore Holly's just like, nope, just going to keep going for a while here, just because I can, because I'm Bob Holly. And because I'm a badass. You know what? I'm just going to stop there because Bob Holly is a badass, and I don't want him ripping off my chest like he did to Daniel Puder in 2005 Royal Rumble.
Puder had it coming.
Fair enough.
No, but I look at this and immediately, just because I've been listening to Cultaholic's classic Raw reviews with Justin Henry and Tom Campbell, I have to do something at work and fill my iPod with a whole bunch of stuff. These are former tag team champions, Bob Holly and the 1-2-3 Kid.
Oh.
In their chronological critique, thank you OSW review, of every Monday Night Raw, they're just about to get to this point in time where 1-2-3 Kid and Bob Holly won the titles off of the Quebecers for a couple of days. And This isn't the first time we have future tag team champions and former buddies going up against each other, hint, hint. And the interview after this match was just, if you're a fan of the Attitude Era podcast like I am, they memed the crap out of this. It's like, interview with Bob Holly, and it's just like, oh, and I hadn't forgot about you, Big Show. And I'm doing like the Scott Hall finger wagging thing for audio context people. But I think a lot of us wrestling fans, and namely us in Wrestle Addict Radio, I think we're all aware of the existence of the Attitude Era podcast. So I don't think I need to explain myself. But we see X-Pac's real/kayfabe neck damage come into play throughout this entire event, and it's a neat little knot in the storyline, I think. And he Bronco busts himself in this match, and I'm instantly reminded of the time he tore his arsehole open doing it. Like, ugh.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that.
Or like D'Lo doing it to D'Lo Brown, and then D'Lo Brown just gets his foot up, and it goes full on into his X-sack. Like, ugh.
Yeah, Jesus. So we go into the next matchup, which is Kane versus the Big Show. I will say this, that we have seen better matches in between these two. I'm not going to lie. This was just kind of one of those matches where it was just like, oh, we're just going to see who's got the strength, who's got this. I will say this is clocked in at 6 minutes and 29 seconds. I think that this was like 3 minutes way too much. If they would have clocked it at like 3 minutes, it would have been enough. But
did you just say 3 minutes?
3 minutes and we're out.
Then we're out of here.
Oh man, 3 minute warning. Oh god, we gotta do a podcast about 3 minute warning. I think there's a whole podcast waiting there. But that's beside the point. Yeah, this matchup, again, nothing really too special. Hardcore Holly gets a little bit of revenge on the Big Show, costing him the match. The Big Slow. And yeah, Kane gets the victory. He advances on. This is not one of those matches that a lot of people are going to really be like, oh, it's going to be really good. They put on great matches afterwards. Like, no, this is like their early stages of nothing too awesome. This was just kind of like a slow I think I've seen a lot of reviews call it a dud, and I think that's probably the best way of putting this matchup.
Yeah, it's and there's a few things in here like Big Show. His pants are just so unflattering, and they got shorter as the summer went on. Like,
That's right.
Sorry, buddy, you don't have the body type for maybe now because like I met the Big Show last year, and he is huge. Like, not only is he like not only am I like up to his crotch, but he is jacked to the gills. And Bob Holly, this is just the beginning of his whole super heavyweight spiel, I think. Like, I'm over 400 pounds, and they even, if you played, well, you played No Mercy, obviously, right?
Of course.
Of course, everybody did. I can probably, I can touch the tote bag that it's in there right now. I think it stopped working here. He's billed at, you can create your guy at billed at 400 pounds, but unlike, say, if you try to body slam Viscera or Mark Henry in the game, you try to slam the guy, he's like, you easily slam Bob Holly, but that's also because the SmackDown game, Spike Dudley can do a tornado backbreaker on the Big Show. Realism. Just the unprotected chair shots to the head in this whole show.
That's right.
And they still bring up, this is like classic WCW booking, but they still bring up like Andre the Giant when it comes to the Big Show. He's the son of Andre! And me being, when I first saw the Giant when I was like 12, I'm like, Andre had a son? Kids, this is what it's like when you watch wrestling before the internet.
Right. No, I totally get you. I think that it's just one of those things where, as much as it's a kind of a compliment for Big Show to have that, I think after a while Big Show's just like, okay, I'm not really the son of Andre. We can just move on from this.
Future tag team champions, Big Show and Kane.
That is true. Were they
WrestleMania opponents?
I don't think so. I remember that they had the titles at WrestleMania, and then they feuded after that. It was like 2006, I want to say. Because I remember going to the Raw after WrestleMania and they lost it to the Spirit Squad. Oh, sweet Lord Almighty! That is another subject for another time. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about. I would say Billy Gunn, but throughout this entire event, he's known as Mr. Ass, which, to be honest, I understand why they're calling him that. And I will say this: that he is definitely. I think he's gotten better with the names ever since this, because now he can be known as producer for AEW, probably his best name in the entirety of his career. But yeah, this is it.
Company.
Yep, and he took on Ken Shamrock, who actually suffered an assault from Shane McMahon, and I believe it was the Mean Street Posse, and they brutalized Ken Shamrock to the point where refs were saying, no, we don't want you going out there. And Ken Shamrock, being Ken Shamrock, because he's a badass, and honestly, I need to watch more Ken Shamrock matches because I love this dude. He basically was just like, no, F that. I'm going out there and I'm fighting. He goes out and he tries the best that he can to take on Billy Gunn, and he even gets Billy Gunn in kind of like a weaker form of the ankle lock. He's not able to lock it in. Unfortunately, his ribs and his chest were just hurting him too much, to the point where I think it was a shot by Billy Gunn to Ken Shamrock that caused him to start doing that whole bleeding internally deal where he started bleeding from the mouth, and referee's just like, nope, we're done. So by referee stoppage, Billy Gunn wins. He advances to the semifinal matchup. The match itself was quick, and I think that it's probably one of the more uncomfortable matches I've ever watched because of how real it felt, that, this guy literally just got the crap beat out of him, and he's able to go out there. It's one of those things where it's like, I love Ken Shamrock, he's a badass, but at the same time, it's still one of those things where it's like, he's still human though, oh gosh, I know this is fake, but this still feels real to me, damn it.
It was Steve Blackman, I think, that jumped him backstage, because this is when Steve was in the middle of his heel turn.
Oh shoot, that's right, yeah. Steve Blackman was a thing here.
Whapping him with the kendo sticks and looking at us like, Billy Gunn, why are you wearing the tag team championship?
Oh, shoot, that's right. Stupidity.
Some weird 2 out of 3 falls, Nitro, something with the APA. I forget the whole context, but it was something to do with...
Technically, they were known as the Acolytes back in the day. They weren't quite the APA yet. I know I'm speaking technicality, but...
Yeah, it's like something to do with the Acolytes. And then next night on Raw, the Acolytes just beat the crap out of them. And, it was like a herd... Ken Shamrock, he tries to go for the Hurricane Rana, but boom, sit-down powerbomb. He just explodes. It's like when you strike your opponent with a chair and no mercy. He just everywhere.
Oh, God.
The last year's King of the Ring winner.
He's out.
And he's on his way out of the company, sadly, in a few short months.
Oh,
we don't got a lot of Ken Shamrock left in 1999.
God, no, I'm getting sad now.
Lions Den match, though. But, going on.
We have China taking on the Road Dogg in a quarterfinal matchup. I will say this. I think that this was the matchup where it was kind of showcasing China's moveset more than anything. And I get it. They're trying to make China into this big deal. And honestly, if they would have gone the route of having China become the first queen of the ring for this, I would have been okay with it. But I think that this was just one of those deals where I think that this is a match that went on way too long. This is the longest matchup in the entirety of the King of the Ring deals. You could combine like so many of these matches and it would not touch this. Clocking at 13 minutes and 14 seconds. But this was just mainly, Triple H getting involved and China showcasing her strength and stuff like that. Which is cool, it's fine. But it's still one of those things where it's like, we know how strong China is. We don't need this kind of showcase deal. In the end, though, Road Dogg was able to overcome the odds. He's able to hit the pump handle slam on China for the victory to advance to the semifinal matchup, where he'll be taking on his tag team partner, X-Pac. So this is where it's going to be interesting, guys. I will say this. It is kind of one of the shockers of the night to go into that matchup. But, honestly, like I said, this matchup, it's just one of those things where it's like, we're showcasing China. We're showcasing how strong she is. Totally unnecessary because we already know how strong she was. But I'm not going to complain about it. It's another one of those things where it's like, holy crap, we get to see China be basically a badass. I'm okay with that.
You forgot something very pivotal in this match, Nate. The lead up to the pump handle slam. There's China's been low blowing everybody. I mean, if you hit A and B and no mercy, ping, you hit it every time. But there's a thing about Road Dogg really not hitting her for a little bit. Storyline. There's a line in this that is just so horrifying and disgusting by Jerry Lawler. He's like, hey, does China like a doggy style?
Oh, God.
I'm not going there. But the low blow, ping, nope. Road Dogg goes down his pants, brings out he waves around his little protective cup, and then he hits the pump handle slam, and thankfully, he didn't do the thrust that he usually does to his opponents before he does it, because that just would have looked, I know WWE wasn't PG at this point in time, but I'm just gonna stop right there and let everyone's imagination run wild. I'm sorry. We have a nice Rock promo next, just classic Rock stuff. He's just like making fun of the Undertaker talking in tongues, and immediately, the Christian in me is like, tongues, how Pentecostal. And some of you won't get this. This one's for you, Mance. I don't know what church you're affiliated with, but there you go. That's a nice little sprinkle for you, my friend.
Oh, man, that's good. Oh, man. I did actually forget about that. That was a really cool moment. That was one of the first few times where we actually see somebody actually being smart and saying, hey, yeah, you gave me with a low blow, but I got protection. I'm cool. We're good. It was just amazing. We go into the next matchup, which is an unscheduled matchup. It was supposed to be on Sunday Night Heat, but it ended in a no contest. We have the Hardy Boys taking on the Brood, one of the first of, I believe, many matches to come in the future, because the Hardy Boys, Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, taking on the Brood, Edge and Christian. Woo! Boy, howdy. I like this matchup. It was kind of one of those matches where it's like, these guys are new, they're kind of interesting. Christian and Edge definitely had kind of like the boyish charm that a lot of girls would just go absolutely crazy for. Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy were always the guys that are just like, we're just going to rip off our shirts and show the pecs for the ladies.
That's for you, MJ, Jeff Hardy.
Oh, man. Yeah, shout out to MJ and Phil, and best of luck to you guys in your future show that's coming out. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to be all about. But yeah, I think the spot here, this might actually probably be spot of the night, where we first got to see Edge basically utilize the spear, not just on the ground, but also in a different point here, because here comes Jeff Hardy trying to go for a whisper in the wind, and we're like, okay, this might be pretty interesting. Edge decides, I'm going to go to the top, I'm going to go to the second rope, and I'm just going to leap and charge right into him. Spear. And everybody just loses their minds, so much so that they keep showing that spot over and over again. But it's such a good spot. Really awesome. But the Hardy Boys pick up the victory here, and I do believe that with this win, they not only become the number one contenders to the tag team titles, but wasn't this also the lead-up to their matchup against the Acolytes, where a certain big event happens?
I believe they wrestled the Acolytes on Raw. Yeah, I should have talked about the Raw after this, because it was the day I got out of the hospital. We'll get into that after, but it's the Hardy Boys win their first tag team championship off of this, and it's just a car crash of a match. I remember hearing this wasn't the Hardy Boys classic theme, but it was some really crappy theme. If you played WrestleMania 2000, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Some shite theme here, and Michael Hayes is looking so out of place with the Hardy Boys, but in a way he's taken them under his Freebird wing. When I saw that spear, I was brought back to a show that you and I reviewed this year, WrestleMania X7, with a 20-foot ladder and the spear, and just how far this feud goes in just over 2 years. Like right here, it has begun. And we get No Mercy 99. That might be worth a look in the fall, because that is like the gem in the turd that show is.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to definitely look into that.
And you see Gangrel kind of costing the Brood the match, and this is kind of another little dissension, smellness, not in the storyline, where we eventually see the new Brood, because every tag team with the word new in it is better than its original. See New Rockers, New Midnight Express for reference.
Yeah, fair enough. Next matchup we got in here. Billy Gunn defeats Kane. Nope.
See ya.
Oh, why was this the thing? Big Red Monster, why? You lost to a dude who shows off his ass. Why? No.
Here's why. He used a chair, and the Big Show interfered, so this furthers their feud.
I don't care. It still should not have happened.
I know.
Get this atrocity off here. Move on to the next match, please. Can we please move on from this? I don't want to talk about it.
Well, we can talk about, before this match, The Undertaker talked about ripping off the balls of the Brahma Bull.
You know, I'm okay with this. We can go in that. This next match, next match never happened. We go into X-Pac versus Road Dogg. I will say this.
DX explodes.
Oh my
again.
gosh! I will say I did like the promos between The Rock and The Undertaker. When we get to the matchup, I definitely want to talk a little bit about interesting history when it comes to that. When it comes to my wrestling fandom when it comes to that, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Like we said, X-Pac versus Road Dogg happened. It was kind of one of those matches where it was really short, and we got an X Factor out of nowhere onto Road Dogg, which I literally was like, "Whoa, okay, that just happened." But yeah, it was one of those things where they just show like, "Oh, hey, we wrestled a good match," and they kind of shake hands, raise each other's hand, blah blah blah, that deal. It was nice one of those matches where it's like, hey, they showed that there's at least some good sportsmanship. So. Not really like a major highlight, but to me it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, they still got that in WWE. I'm okay with this.
Full circle, Nate. There's a full circle moment here.
And what is that full circle, Mr. Fretz?
What match did X-Pac and the Road Dogg have next year?
Oh gosh.
King of the Ring 2000 tag team match. They're a tag team again.
Oh gosh, now you got me interested. Now I have to take a look at this and see what the.
No, I'm just going to tell you.
All right.
We had a tag team dumpster match with the Dudley Boys.
Oh, for the love of all that's high and mighty. Oh, that's right. We did talk about this last week. Oh, for the love of God.
Yeah. Oh, there's another. There's another. Just because of something that happened on Raw this week, we have another full circle moment happening with a particular dead man. Oh, spoiler alert.
Oh,
no, but I thoroughly enjoyed this match. We had the whole thing with, X-Pac kind of go and shoot for a bit, like, hey, Brian James, you're my best friend, but I got to do this, blah, blah, blah. So you had a nice little sweet storytelling here with the real-life friends and D-Generation X, and it's like, even though DX is still basically broken up, you're kind of trying to hang on to the moniker a little bit. And I thought it was really sweet, because hearing, oh, you didn't know never gets old to me. Like, cause when I was a teenager, that and the whole, ooh, let's get ready to suck it thing was just, right here, man.
Whew. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps too, because
high school, dude.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, next matchup is the match for the WWE Championship, or back then it's known as the WWF Championship. We have the champion, The Undertaker, who made his return to Monday Night Raw this past week to help Roman Reigns, and now he's in a tag team match. Okay, then. He takes on the People's Champion, The Rock. And I want to say this. So, I actually watched a VHS tape that featured The Rock, kind of talking a bit about some of the things that he was going through, kind of bringing up like his upbringing, how he learned how to talk smack and stuff like that, his fan interactions, everything like that. It was really cool. Yes, this was a VHS tape, so for those of you that caught that reference, welcome to the Old People's Club. For those of you that didn't catch that reference, congratulations, you're irrelevant. So for this, one of the first matches that shows on here is that it shows The Rock versus The Undertaker at King of the Ring. And what's ironically enough is that Undertaker did a DVD, Blu-ray deal, I think it was, about a few years later, that actually featured this matchup on there as well. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, okay, it's actually got some kind of cred to it, because both Undertaker and Rock definitely talk about this matchup here. And I just remember watching it, and I was like, I like this match. I like it. Although I did have one little dispute, one little thing that kind of annoyed me a bit. Was there even an opening bell when it came to this matchup? Because I swear, all it was just like, oh, hey, here come the entrances, referee gets knocked down, Rock goes for rock bottom, he goes to the cover, here comes the ref, 1, 2, gets pulled out by Paul Bearer, taken out, and I'm just like thinking, was there even an opening bell for this thing? It was just, it's a small thing, but it was one of those things like, was there even an opening bell? And we're not even.
I'm a genius.
there's some geniusness to this. It's kind of those things where it's like, okay, this is weird, but no, they fought in the crowd. They got some really good offense on each other. This is a really good matchup between Undertaker and Rock. Honestly, it might be one of my favorites. I liked that they definitely showcased Undertaker being a badass. They definitely showcased The Rock being not only smart but also being, the people's champ. You definitely show him, like spraying water on The Undertaker. He sprays beer on The Undertaker from a guy in the crowd. It's just one of those things where it definitely shows that The Rock is still one of those guys who can entertain people and loves to interact with people. He loves being out there, being able to be like, hey, I'd like to, hey man, let's get you involved in the show. Let's get you involved in this. Or he could be that guy who's like, oh, hey, you there, shut up, you cookie puss, something like that. Just he always finds a way to just enjoy. I know that's a reference that a lot of people are going to need to dig for. Let's just say that it involves one of my favorite guys, and I'm kind of mad about it, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things that kind of makes me giddy. It's like, that's funny. But no, it ends with Triple H getting involved. He hits one pedigree on The Rock, and Rock kicks out of it. Then Undertaker's like, okay, your move sucks. I'm going to hit him with a tombstone. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Undertaker retains. Honestly, I think other than the main event, this was probably one of my favorite matches of the night. I would definitely say, No, I would say that this is my favorite match of the night. Second favorite would be the main event. Like I said, it showcases The Rock, it showcases The Undertaker. This is one of those matches that I understand why they put this both on their VHS, DVDs, whatever they want to call it. It's a pretty good matchup.
I didn't like it as much as you did, Nate, but it was still a fun match, and just looking at the difference between the 98 King of the Ring and the 99 King of the Ring, like, you know, namely with people like The Rock, just the pop that he got. And the Ministry theme, I am 35, and that theme still scares the shit out of me and gives me goosebumps.
Let's be thankful that it's the Ministry theme and not the Ministry Corporation theme. What the hell is that?
That doesn't exist.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but still, like, and this Undertaker's, like, demon cult leader thing, it was corny as fuck, but it's fun. It's really fun. I might have to send you the soundbite for this to be the intro to this show.
Okay.
But just there was one thing in here that led up to this, and it's 3 simple words. It's me, Austin.
Oh God.
Oh, son of a bitch. Like, the greater power. There's a rebooking for me to do.
I actually do have a rebooking for that. I'll give you guys a little bit of a taste of it when we get done talking about this. But yeah, but
the last, and there's one more thing. The last time that they were in that city, were they in Raleigh?
I think they were. This one was in Greensboro. Yeah.
Okay. The last time the Undertaker wrestled in that city was the Inferno match. So.
Oh shit! Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Chloroform.
Oh, that's right. That was a thing in this video, but I'm not even going to talk. I'm not even going to mention that. That never happened. That never happened, and I'm keeping that out of the outskirts of my mind. What I can't keep out the outskirts of my mind is the fact that we go into the King of the Ring final matchup.
Oh God.
We knew the result was going into it. We knew who was going to win. For me, I was just literally like, okay, just end this, please. Just get this guy. Oh God. You do mention, you know, X-Pac was dealing with his neck injuries during this time, and you know they definitely do hint at the fact that, you know, he's got this neck deal going on. He's definitely not at 100%. Hits a Famouser. It just looks really brutal, and I'm there thinking, okay, here we go. 1, 2, kick out. I'm like, what? Oh, well, this is different. I was thinking that was going to be it, but no, he kicked out of the regular Famouser, and I was just like, okay, we got ourselves a matchup. I'm actually now intrigued by this. It's really sad to say that a kick out of a Famouser is what made me think, okay, now you got me invested. What's going on here? But, you know, X-Pac, he tried to mount some offense, but unfortunately Billy Gunn was able to, you know, cut him off. He's able to stop him. And we get a second rope Famouser, which would now be known as the John Cena leg drop for those of you that are current wrestling fans, let's face it. And that's how Billy Gunn wins the King of the Ring. Mr. Ass is your King of the Ring. And what does he end up doing? About 2 months later, he kisses a fluffy woman's butt. Yeah, that's your King of the Ring, ladies and gentlemen. Just great job, WWE. Great booking.
Okay. So, prior to this event, I think the late Mabel, rest in peace, would have been used as a verb. Okay, I'm so tired I can't tell the difference between my nouns and adjectives and verbs. I'm like Kevin Nash on the NWO promo. Shout out if you know what that means. I promise I won't Billy Gunn this event. Prior to this, I think Mabel used in that context. This King of the Ring will always be known as, I promise I won't Billy Gunn this, as Edge so famously coined when he won the King of the Ring in 2001. I think this is worse than Mabel, honestly. And when I was you know, in the sick kids hospital library waiting for my dad, and I'm going through the results, and I'm just like, Billy Gunn. What? What? I probably would have been like a code blue in my hospital room had I actually watched that live. Where I would have been just like suplexing nurses out of like a 10th story window.
They give you the Brock Lesnar testosterone, the early versions of it, and somehow you're able to just go absolutely crazy. And it's like Fretzel City, bitch.
Or that bit, it was like that WWE Super Bowl commercial, and you see that guy just get thrown out of the Titan Towers window, and McMahon's just like, thumbs up in front of the building, and...
We're the WWF. What the hell?
Attitude, get the F out.
Alright, so we go into the main event, which is a handicap match. A handicap ladder match, I should say, for the control of the entire World Wrestling Federation. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon. And at first, it looks like Vince McMahon is going to have to find a different partner because apparently Shane McMahon was too brutalized earlier. And it looked like we were going to get Steve Blackman, which in all honesty, Steve Blackman, Stone Cold Steve Austin during that time would have probably been kind of nice. But... we don't get that. GTV, that was amazing. I loved that. So we get a GTV moment where Shawn Michaels pulls up the footage, and we see the Mean Street Posse. They're talking with Shane, and Shane's even trying to still sell this whole like, oh, ow, I'm still hurt and stuff like that. And they're just saying like, we're on TV. He's like, yeah, I know, dude, we're on TV. No, I mean literally, we're on TV. Shane looks at the TV and he's like, oh shit. So we're getting the handicap match between Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon against Stone Cold Steve Austin. I want to say this though, before we get too deep into this. The promo package for this matchup literally feels like trolls made it, because I literally look at this and I think to myself, was there somebody that literally just looked at this and said, yeah, Vince McMahon is the higher power. This is stupid. We're admitting it. We're admitting that this is really, 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 really dumb.
It's me. I'm a genius.
He says that, and then we get the whole deal where Linda and Stephanie are like, oh, how could you do this? How could you do this? And Vince, of course, doing the coin of, oh, it's nothing personal. It's just business. And literally, I'm like, shut the fuck up, Vince. I know I shouldn't really curse too much, but it's just one of those situations where I'm like, just shut up, Vince. I will literally punch you in the very depths of your soul. I'm pulling an Agent Cooper right now, where it's like, I'm just going to take a fiery Captain Falcon fist, burn up the insides of your soul, so that way you can never think of something this stupid ever again. So then we have Stone Cold Steve Austin is given the power. We get the whole deal where he's taken over the whole entire WWF headquarters, making people do a lot of stuff, letting them have it done, literally having somebody fired just because they look stupid. I'm just literally thinking, okay, that's funny. That's funny. The match itself, nothing really too spectacular. I will say this, that it is about 90% Austin, 10% Shane and Vince, but that 10% was more than enough, because any spot that Stone Cold seemingly was being taken out by, that was fine. That was totally fine, because at least it wasn't like little crappy moments where it was like, oh, Stone Cold tripped on a ladder, oh, he's going to be down for a while. It's like, no. Stone Cold gets literally tossed off of a ladder, and he's down for a while. It's like, okay, that makes sense. Shane and Vince, they try to do like a whole, like the whole, like when you're playing like water chicken, you're just like stacked up by each other, and you're basically trying to get the contract. We had that kind of nice moment where Stone Cold just kicks Vince in the gut, makes him do an electric chair to Shane. We get the dreaded briefcase ascending higher, and nobody really understands why. Nobody even explained why. Some people are still thinking, hey, maybe it was the big boss man. It probably was. It's like, okay, we never got an explanation on that on TV. Well, you don't need to know that. We kind of want to, because then it would have made some kind of sense. Maybe we could have had some kind of good feud off of this. But yeah, it ends with Shane McMahon and Vince. They are still in control of the WWF. Thankfully, though, there is some good aftermath for this for Stone Cold, because he basically said, regardless if I won or lost, I get a WWF title shot. He takes on The Undertaker. He wins it. They have a pretty brutal first blood match at Fully Loaded. And then we get into the whole SummerSlam deal, which is kind of a bit of a mess, but I'm not going to go. We're not going to go into that. But yeah, at least for Austin, after post King of the Ring, it worked for him. But yeah, this matchup itself, it didn't hurt Austin. It didn't hurt his career. It was just one of those things where it's like, really, more McMahon shenanigans. Okay, I guess, sure, whatever. But I do see the frustration that you have with the show. I remember shaking my head after the show thinking, well, that was a thing. There's some good matches, like we said. Like I said before, I enjoyed Undertaker versus Rock. The Hardy Boy Brood match was really good. They showcased China quite a bit. Some good storytelling and some really, really good effects for a lot of these stars. The whole thing with Ken Shamrock I thought was great. They're continuing the Hardcore Holly deal. X-Pac and Road Dogg match was honestly probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite King of the Ring deal. Other than that, everything else was just kind of meh, or just passable, if not infuriatingly passable.
This show sucked.
Fair enough.
However, it's kind of like there's a few gems in the turd, is a phrase. I don't know why I say it. I think it's if you know American Dad has a running joke about this giant piece of gold that's shaped like a turd that fell out of Roger. Anyways, it's that. My favorite matchup, I loved the Edge and Christian Hardy Boys because it was the beginning of something amazing with these two teams, and eventually we get a whole. This is not a full circle deal. This is kind of like a down the line deal because 6 years later we'd have an Edge and Matt Hardy feud. We have just this match was just nothing but chaos, and it was sad seeing Shawn Michaels at this point in time, knowing how wasted he was at this point in time in his life. And right. most of the time, from 99 2000, if you saw him on TV, it was it's kind of known that 90% chance he was absolutely plowed out of his mind. And thank the Lord that he's cleaned up. And I'm going to say something controversial here.
Okay.
Pre-heel Steph, way hotter. Pre-boob job.
No, I can agree with that. I can get on that bandwagon. It is one of those situations where so many people have to remember that natural beauty is one of the more beautiful things than just making yourself look like a freaking Barbie doll. You don't have to change anything. Somebody's going to love you like you are. Please do not put anything in your body because you do not need it. That's my moral for that.
Yeah, that's my deal, and I loved the Monday Night Raw the next night because that was my first night home from the hospital. I laid on my couch because I had this kind of irrational fear of falling out of bed and ending up back in the hospital. So my couch was a recliner, a love seat.
Nice.
So I stay there, I rest there, and I watch Raw in my living room. I had some friends and neighbors were over before that, just checking up on me. Hey, give me all this get well shit, and that was a nice first night home from the hospital, seeing Austin win and waking everybody in my house up when it happened. I was 15 at the time, so right, it was just a cool time to be a teenager. This was the talk of some my friends came and saw me later in the week, and I think we watched this or watched something. They taped something wrestling wise for me, I think, again. So yeah, this was I'll say it wasn't. It was a pretty bad. I say it sucked, but we had a couple of good things in here. But just the fact that we had Billy Gunn. I mean, I'm going to be doing a rebooking of this at some point in time. I wrote it down. Spoiler alert, my rebooking has Chyna winning.
Yay!
So, it would have been really interesting to give her this spot, even if she didn't actually get the WWE title, because Chyna, she became the number one contender, but never got her title shot.
That's another debate for another time.
No, that's just move right on to something else.
All right. So, guys, we're going to take a little quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some breaking news that might actually shake up the whole entire brand split, including some comments that was made by one of the heads of the new executives. Definitely don't want to miss out on that, as well as a continuation to the favorites list, you guys. 15 years as a wrestling fan for me in August. Definitely want to see what's going on for that. So we will be right back with more of the Game Changer podcast. Hey guys, this is NateFNGreat. Hey, have you ever wanted to be a champion but can't seem to really find the money and the time to get a championship belt? Well, you know who's a really good friend of mine? AJ from AJsBelts.com. These guys have a large assortment of championship belts, from classic belts to the modern day belts to championship belts you would not even believe. And guys, like I said, they work with you very well. With an awesome layaway program, there is no way that you can beat these guys' prices as well as these guys' deals, especially when you can give them a little bit of money every now and then until you can get that championship gold. Coming from a guy who's a champion and a game changer, I'm indeed NateFNGreat. I'm representing AJsBelts.com, proud friends of the Game Changer podcast.
What up, Ooses? This is DFDC Jeff Palmantrio of Not Your Mama Soap Opera, and you're listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Game Changer podcast. I'm NateFNGreat. This is Mr. Fretz, one of the favorite Canadians in all of wrestling and Twitter. So, guys, definitely, we want to do another shout out again to our boys at the Wrestle Addict Radio family, at Fourth Wall Cast, at Not_Opera, at Gifted Podcast, at KOTR_podcast, which also features the Queen Bee herself, Kate Murphy. We love you. We love you. We love you. You are amazing.
Buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz, boys. All right. So, guys, this is actually a pretty interesting piece of news because a lot of times when we do these shows, we talk about Raw, SmackDown, stuff like that. But we want to do something a little bit different. And we like to cover things that are more game-changing. Now, obviously, King of the Ring 99 was only game-changing if you wanted to be a major buzzkill. Ha-ha. But this one is actually a very interesting game changer because they made the announcement on WWE.com that former head exec of WCW, Mr. Eric Bischoff, and former head exec of ECW, Mr. Paul Heyman, are going to be the head of executive producers for Raw and SmackDown. Now, obviously, you guys, there has been a little bit of this kind of rivalry before. If you don't remember, it was kind of like a blink of an eye kind of moment with Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman, where Eric Bischoff was the general manager of Raw, Paul Heyman was the general manager of SmackDown. That lasted for about a good 4-5 months, I would say, until Paul Heyman got drafted to Raw, and what was honestly one of the funniest drafts I've ever seen. Just him be basically drafted and then be like, screw you, I quit! Just saying that. Oh my gosh, I loved it. But honestly, guys, this was something that I think is a good direction for WWE because of the fact that they have been just hugely suffering for so long, so much. And it's kind of funny because of everything that they've done. Whether they've done the reintroduction of the brand extension a few years ago, now they're basically saying, well, that's not working, let's just try to slowly start bringing people back and forth. They brought the stupid wild card rule, which was brought on it's almost been 2 months since the wild card rule was brought into effect. That's horrible. But I will say this, that I want to kind of talk about what Eric Bischoff said in an interview that he had in Outside the Ropes, where he basically talks about, how he would have, done the brand extension, to make them successful. He talks about, his first introduction to like a brand extension deal when they had Nitro and Thunder. He kind of wanted to do something that was different, where it's like, okay, we got Nitro is kind of like the WCW stuff. Thunder is going to have more like, the NWO stuff like that. And then, of course, he talks about his early interludes into the early brand extension, where he was a part of it as the general manager for a good 4 years, I want to say. I might be off. But one thing that he definitely said is that in order for a brand extension to be successful, one of the brands definitely has to be a bit more grittier. You don't have to make them, completely gritty as, like each other. They can't be exactly the same shows, because you have to give them something different. And that's what people have been saying for so long. So it's kind of really good to hear that from Eric Bischoff. One thing he definitely hits at, I don't know if this was during the time when he heard about the wild card rule, or maybe this was something that he kind of thought, well, if they try doing this again, it's not going to work. He said that, if they do try to do the whole deal where they bring, people from Raw to SmackDown and people from SmackDown to Raw, he said that he would not give the brand extension 6 months before they just decided just throw it out the window. So I'm actually going to quote Eric Bischoff on that. He said that he would give it 6 months. So I marked the date. May 6, 2019 is when they brought in the wild card rule. So we have all the way until November 6th of this year to see if the brand extension is still alive or whether it's dead in the water. We're going to find out come November, you guys. And with the whole Fox deal, there's even rumors that Fox is kind of thinking maybe this is not the route that we want to go, because they don't like what's going on with WWE. But I've kind of talked enough, so Mr. Fretz, I want to know your thoughts first on the whole Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff being heads of Raw and SmackDown.
Enough said. if I hear that on TV, I will lose my mind. But I think it's really. I just woke up to this news, right? I roll over, see what time it is. Like, okay, let's check out the group chat. Okay, it still hasn't really sunk in. Coffee, beer, and now I'm like, okay, Bischoff and Heyman. What year is it?
It's 2019, my good sir.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting executive position. You basically took the words out of my mouth here. It's like, something. I didn't read that interview, that aforementioned interview, because I just saw this thing on the group chat, and it's like, oh, okay, so they're going to be, one's going to be running Raw, one's going to be running SmackDown. I'm just like, okay, bring back the rivalry from like 04, 05, or whenever it was, like the one Royal Rumble when they both came out and just started bickering at each other. Anyways, it's hopefully this kind of helps their kind of floundering reputation as of late, even though, like, Raw the past couple of weeks and Stomping Grounds, hey, not bad, actually. I've already talked about Stomping Grounds on my personal show, so I'm just not going to get into it here, but it was watchable. I mean, they kind of bamboozled us until the referee reveal, which was hilarious, looking back. Like, big-time troll job. I loved it. I just hope that, these guys can kind of get in Vince's ear a little bit and, hear a little less of "I'm a genius" and just kind of have him open his mind. Vince he's in his 70s now, and I know, like, unfortunately, Moxley said it best, and I think it's true. Like, he's going to die in that chair, or just die doing what he's doing, and hopefully this allows Vince to kind of take a step. I don't want to say take a step back, but kind of just give these two guys some free reign and the writing staff some free reign. Because there's always, I always see on the wrestling news sites, there's always job openings for creative, and just thinking how shitty of a job that would be.
Well,
even
I can attest to that.
Job, but.
Yeah, I will say this. I think I tried to apply for one of those creative jobs, and I think there's still a part of me that's like, I would still try it just to see. But I also see the qualifications, like, oh, you have to have at least done, TV shows or commercials, or you had this kind of experience and blah, 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 and stuff like that. It's like, why not just go with a fan who actually, knows what he's talking about? I mean, if they would have had, Adam Blampier back in the prime of What Culture, had him, do those bookings, that would have been great. He would have had some really great ideas that would have made sense. And, he's doing this long-term booking. He's not just thinking, okay, what'll get us into next week? Okay, what'll get us into this? And he's not just changing his mind. He realizes, there's some points where it's like, okay, we can't avoid this, but we're going to try and work with it. We're going to make it so it's like, I think that one of the best ways to say that is the whole Nexus deal was that, whenever somebody got injured, they got outcast and they got sent out of the Nexus, where he said, no, we're treating these as injuries. We're treating these as actual deals because we're a brotherhood. We're not just, a band of mercenaries that just don't care for each other. We are a strong deal. So, having that. But, getting back to what you were saying, let Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman have some freedom to where they can actually be able to say, hey, we're going to go with this idea. If it works, it works. If not, then, hey, at least we know. And I know that, and, Vince is going to say, like, well, I've been doing that for months and nobody cares. It's like, it's because you're out of touch with it. That's the problem, is that Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman, they still have a great wrestling mind, and they can adapt to what's going on. They can make it so it's like, yes, the familiar storyline, but we can tweak it so that way it feels more relatable. It feels more genuine. It feels more original. You can't just be like, oh, I want to make a joke about poo because it's funny. You can't have that kind of mindset. You have to have a deal where it's like, okay, what's going to keep the audience coming back? What's going to keep them interested? You have those kind of storylines, you're going to have a great brand. And if you ever want to win an Emmy, you definitely need to create something good. Otherwise, there's no chance in hell, pun majorly intended and implied, of getting that award.
Yeah, and it's like, Heyman and Bischoff, they're not much, they're a little bit younger than Vince, but they have their finger on the pulse a little bit better than I think Vince does. It's such the poop jokes, and it's such good shit, pal, pun intended, as well. But yeah, I think, as I just said, yeah, they have their finger on the pulse a little bit, and I think it. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic. I've been a wrestling fan for 25 years, and I don't see. It would take wrestling ending itself for me to completely tap out. I mean, we have lots of options now anyway. So if WWE were to become not a thing or unwatchable, it's like, hey, look, AEW's coming up. I can get at New Japan World, blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm intrigued, and I'm also thinking why would you bring these guys back? Is there anyone young in the business with the same mindset, right? I think the only other person that comes to mind who's younger in the business with a mindset like a Heyman or like a Bischoff is Cody. And I think that's also because it was instilled onto him by Dusty. Because Dusty was one of the smartest guys ever in wrestling.
Hence why NXT was so successful and why those younger talents got a chance. I will say this to kind of close this deal. I know there's still a lot of people that have always said, well, if you hate WWE's product, why don't you just go to AEW? Why don't you just go to this stuff? Blah, blah, blah. I'll say this. This is just coming from me, and I don't know if there's anybody that can relate to this, but for me, there is still that part of me that's always going to be loyal to WWE because I am actually a little bit scared of leaving WWE because here's the thing. So many of my favorites are still in WWE, and they're the ones that are keeping me loyal to it. Ricochet's finally the U.S. champion. Congratulations to him. I love that. We still got Bobby Roode that's involved in there. One of the best guys that I've seen, wrestling. And there's so many other people on that list that I could just list off. And trust me, we're getting into the favorites, and we're dwindling down to the final 7. I'll talk about that in a minute. But for me, it's just I don't want to leave because I still have people there that I love, and I'm afraid to go because I'm afraid of what's going to happen when I'm gone. I could leave for a month, and maybe by that month, Ricochet could be released or Bobby Roode could be released, and I'll be like, well, what happened? What happened to him? There's something like that. And I'm sure there's still people that are still going to be loyal to it because for me, it was his first exposure to wrestling was WWE. So there's still that kind of loyalty there. I don't think I'll ever cut WWE off cold turkey because, like I said, 15 years as a wrestling fan, majority of it was WWE. It's kind of installed in me. And like I said, you got all those favorites there. Keeps me invested. Keeps me interested.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into some of the favorites, like I said, you guys. So this might actually be kind of interesting because the first two are actually going to be related to the whole deal, especially that this episode is going to be released on O Canada Day. Two of these picks are actually going to be fellow Canadians, sort of. I'll let you be the judge on one of them. I know one I could definitely vouch is Canadian, but we're going to start with the tag team. And this is one that I think a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear this name up, but I love this group as a heel team. I love the fact that they always came out there. They always sang their national anthem. They were legitimately one of those teams where I thought, oh, yes, I love to hate these guys. And that was the incarnation of La Resistance. That being Sylvain Grenier, Robert Conway, not the one with Rene Dupree, but the original, the secondary La Resistance team. Oh my gosh, can I speak so fondly of these guys? And they just do a fantastic job of creating that heel heat that just needs to be there. They needed to have a team that needed to be hated, and they were them. They were the team. It was like, you need somebody to hate us? You got them. You got them in La Resistance. They're always going to put down America. They're always going to make sure that you hate them. They're the team that will always be there to be like, yeah, we hate America. We hate you. And we're going to show that we are the best. And they were 3-time tag team champions. Actually, I think Sylvain was a 4-time tag team champion because he was a world tag team champion with Rene Dupree, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. So I may not appreciate the original incarnation as much, but yeah, Sylvain Grenier, Robert Conway, La Resistance, still one of my favorite tag teams to this day.
Oh, Canada, terre de nos aïeux. I loved it when they sang the national anthem en français, et québécois, oui. Rob Conway, though, I just can't look at him without just look at me.
Oh, that's right.
That friggin' guy who sang the Toy Story song, it's a friggin' Randy Newman theme. I love the original with Renee because also Canada, but I attended a house show in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada in 2003. And that was actually the last wrestling-related live show I've ever been to. It was in 2003. I've said this before, but it was main evented by hometown boy, the late Andrew Martin, a.k.a. Test, versus Scott Steiner. But this also featured one of the first appearances, I think, pre-TV debut of La Resistance. Ooh. Like Sylvain Grenier and Rene Dupree. But here's a funny faux pas moment. They came out to Ludwig Borges' theme, which was the Finnish national anthem.
What the heck?
Yeah, case in point here, if we remember when we talked about WrestleMania X7, Nikolai Volkov came out to this theme too. Last I checked, Nikolai Volkov was Russian. Foreigner's gimmick. Yeah, well, what's next? We're going to have someone from Quebec come out to France's national anthem. Oh, wait, Vito Bravo, it happened. Anyways, yes, I love, I'm a Canadian, so I'm a huge sucker for anti-American gimmicks. No offense, my American friends. Team Canada, the Un-Americans, La Resistance, and especially during this point in time in America, like the post. I'm not going to get into the politics here, but at that point in time when La Resistance came out, America wasn't very popular, let's say, but I'm not getting into anything political here right now. This is not a politics-based show, but I'm a sucker for those gimmicks, man. I love it. But Salon Grenier, I think he was in there as an injury replacement before, Conway went on his stupid Randy Newman theme gimmick where he was defeating legends for 3 weeks, and then Sylvain became like a model or something. But every time La Resistance came to Quebec, they got the huge pop, and they always got a win. I think they won the titles in Quebec once.
They did. They defeated Benoit and Edge, actually, if I remember correctly.
Yes, yeah, and no matter what, you go to Quebec. I've been to Quebec, and Montreal is a beautiful city, just absolutely gorgeous. Just don't wear Toronto Maple Leafs stuff if you're going to be walking from one end of Montreal to the other, from Saint Catherine to Saint Denis. If any of my friends are from there, don't do it. You'll get tabarnak, English boy, call this. I'm teaching you some French swear words right here, so I'm not going to say what they actually mean because I don't remember. But yeah, I'm a sucker for the Canadians and the Canadian gimmicks. I love every time WWE goes to Montreal that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens just start cutting promos en français. And Sami Zayn talking about, it was funny, Sami Zayn was talking about things like St. Viateur bagels and New York, step up bagel game, because Montreal takes the cake. No offense, New Yorkers. And just all these spots he was talking about, I'm like, I've been to those spots, yay! Awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and like you said, you like the anti-American ones. This was another one where it's like, it works, it makes sense. Only regret is I don't have a La Resistance t-shirt. So the next one that we have on here is another fellow Canadian, ladies and gentlemen, and this was one that I kind of had to warm up to before actually really liking her, but when I got the chance to actually talk to her last year at All In, she immediately became one of my favorites. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm of course talking about the one and only Chelsea Green. The hot mess, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, boy howdy. So when she first debuted in TNA, she was just this kind of random blondie known as Laurel Van Ness, which I literally thought, oh boy, this is going to be another one of those people that's going to be annoying me, it's going to be bad. But once she started doing the whole deal where she was just a train wreck when it comes to weddings, she always walked around with a just smudged wedding dress. Her makeup was all just completely just out of whack. She always looked like she was drinking. One of her first finishers, I believe, was the curb stomp, which, in all honesty, is kind of ironic because now that Seth Rollins is back using it, she's got to do something different. Getting the chance, like I said, to actually interact with her a bit. I think it was only for like a few minutes though. So for those other guys like, no, that's not long enough. It's like, it was long enough for me. So got the chance. She's such a sweetheart. And also got to do a shout out to the Rant with Ant show. Definitely check out their interview that Rant got with Chelsea Green. It's awesome. When she mentioned the fact that she was going to be a part of Lucha Underground, I was like, wait, what? It was like, I think it was maybe a week or two after I saw that interview. That's when she debuted as Reclusa, and she did a Canadian Destroyer to Pentagon Junior, Pentagon Dark. I literally marked out like, oh my god, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. I think that was where I started becoming a huge Chelsea Green fan, and she's done really good. She's been a part of the Performance Center in WWE. She had a couple matches in NXT. She's been out with injury for a while, but now she is the happiest woman in the world because she's going to be marrying the broski himself, Zack Ryder. Woo, woo, woo. You bro it. I literally am so happy for them. They are just a cute couple together. Also, if you haven't gotten a chance to, check out some of her tweets. They are beyond inspiring, but they're also so vastly entertaining. One of my favorites is when she does like Monday Scare, like hashtag Monday Scare or Tuesday Scare, something like that. It's literally her just scaring Zack Ryder every single chance she gets. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, Zack Ryder, you're going to be dead before you get married to this woman. And Zack Ryder even tries to get her back, and she's just like, really? at night at 3 o'clock in the morning. She just walks away like nothing. I'm just like, oh my god, I love this woman. Chelsea Green is amazing. And I do have a funny story when it comes to her. So I actually did get a picture with her, so a lot of people have probably seen. And it wasn't at her like regular booth. It was actually towards the booth of, ironically enough, King of the Ring winner Billy Gunn was at. So one of his guys was there. He's like, "Oh, do you need us to take a picture?" It's like, "Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, please, that'd be awesome." I give it to the guy. Billy grabs my phone. He gives it back, and he's just like, "No, we can't do that." And literally, she and I kind of look at each other. We're like, "What? We're just kind of like, what the hell's going on?" He takes the phone back. He's like, "I'm kidding. Have a sense of humor, for Christ's sake." and then oh my gosh. And then I just remember whispering to her, it's like, "I think I realize now why they call him Mr. Ass." And she just smiles, laughs, and nods. She's like, "Yeah." And I will say this, I actually did get a chance to talk to Billy Gunn at WrestleCon. I talked to him, I just said, "Hey, how's it going, man?" I don't know if we got a picture or not. I don't think we did, but I remember just talking to him. I just remember saying to him, "Well, at least I got a sense of humor, unlike last time." And he actually busted out laughing. He's like, "Oh, that's right, this guy." So, oh gosh, but Chelsea Green, she is such a sweetheart, great person. Definitely follow her on Twitter. She is just absolutely fantastic. She has entertaining tweets. She has inspiring tweets. I'm really looking forward to seeing where she goes in NXT. I kind of would love to see her be the one that dethrones Shayna Baszler, if, medically permitting. We'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing her back. I'm looking forward to seeing her just burn it down in NXT, bringing out the hot mess. It's going to be awesome.
Chelsea Green's Canadian.
Yes.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I'm, that was the point in time I wasn't watching a lot of Impact. Like, I think it was, what was the one show, there was a Bound for Glory show that Alberto Del Taco no-showed. It was in Toronto, and Petey Williams was in an X Division match with Trevor Lee and a bunch of other guys. But I remember seeing her in this, and I'm just like, "What on earth is this?" And then I kind of got familiar with her storyline, and I think it was because OSW Review actually reviewed this show. Because they went, Bound for Glory 2007, now we're going to review 2017 to see how TNA is doing. And I'm not familiar with Chelsea Green, but the few things I've seen out of her as the hot mess have been thoroughly entertaining. Yeah, and I kind of hope she brings that gimmick to NXT. I somehow think it's not going to happen unless they do like a Drake Maverick left at the altar kind of deal, or
I think there's ways that you can do it, just like there were ways that you could have done the Broken Mac gimmick in WWE. It's just going to take the right kind of circumstances. I think that I definitely don't see it being a situation like where Chelsea Green and Zack Ryder they break up on Twitter or something like that just to fill the story. No, I don't see that. I don't see that happening at all. I could see something very traumatic happening, like maybe she's kind of like the one that the girls kind of talk behind her back or something like that. Maybe she turns to that kind of deal. But some kind of storyline that would actually make sense to kind of bring that hot mess, character to the fold. It's just going to take the right storyline to do it.
It would take time, and I think by the time that they build this storyline, Shayna Baszler will be on the main roster. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. I have to become a little bit more familiar with the future Mrs. Ryder.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so this guy is for the men's. He's not Canadian, but I'm pretty sure Canada would welcome him with open arms if he were given the option. For number 7 for the men, I went with an icon. Some may even call him the icon. That being, Sting, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
So Sting, I really got introduced to, not through WCW, but through, people guessed it, Impact Wrestling. Actually, my first watching of Sting was actually when he was Steve Borden, his real life, his real life name, where he just came out. He just basically beating up everybody on Team Jarrett. He's just whacking him like crazy. He locks him in the Scorpion Death Lock, and literally out of nowhere comes Scott Steiner, and I'm just like, what the what? I'm seeing so many familiar faces around here. It's the one night where I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Kind of piqued my curiosity a bit. Then we get into the storyline where Sting is trying to, cut the cancer out of TNA. That is Jeff Jarrett trying to take the world title from him, and seeing him kind of evolve into just this very great character. It's one of those things where, people could say, oh, you got to appreciate him. You got to watch old, NWA days, old WCW days. You'll get to see what Sting was all about. I don't know if I really can say that, because during his Impact days, I got to see him, be a crazy guy. I got to see him play a little bit of a heel, but he was still one of those guys that people really loved. He was a quote-unquote godfather of the Main Event Mafia for a while. He did a crazy Joker gimmick, which, in all honesty, Joker Sting is still one of my favorite incarnations of Sting ever. So for those of you that think best Sting is WCW Sting, I'm sorry, but Joker Sting has it for me. Then he came to WWE. He wrestled only 2 matches, unfortunately, which really just tears my heart apart. And they were both losses, which I thought, damn it, no. I think that he should have at least beat Triple H at WrestleMania. If he would have gotten one win, it should have been against Triple H at Mania. Triple H, he doesn't need to win all the time because he's made a career of having wins all the time. Anyway, that's for a different story, different time. But no, Sting is one of those legends I am absolutely fascinated by. He is one of those guys who just continues to be a huge inspiration for a lot of people, especially for those that want to don the face paint. I'm sure a lot of people would like to say I wear the face paint because I remember, guys like Ultimate Warrior, guys like Sting, they're in the same conversation. And hell, they were even a tag team for a while, for those of you that don't know, where they I think they were even tag team champions long time ago, but I could be 100%.
In some promotion they were, AWA or something like that.
It was before. I think this is one of the few times I can say this was before our time.
Before our time watching, but
fair.
I got a decade on you at least, so it's maybe the time, as long as in my lifetime, quote unquote. But yeah, Sting is, he's always been a constant in my wrestling life. Around the time I started watching wrestling weekly is when Sting started feuding with the NWO.
Ooh, baby.
Yeah, one of my first I had a cousin who had so many wrestling tapes, and I think one day Sting's not on this pay-per-view, but he either brought it to my house or bought it for me, or I borrowed it. WCW Hog Wild 1996. Hulk Hogan wins the world title and christens it the NWO title, and then that's just not long after that you see Crow Sting come out with the trench coat and the baseball bat in. Before that, we saw Ultimate Warrior face paint, that's the Sting in '96, tag champs with Lex Luger. And then he went away and got injured, and I don't know if he was injured this whole time for a year and a half, because we didn't see Sting from about wrestle. And from Slamboree or Great American Bash '96 all the way until Starrcade '97 when Sting Hogan finally happened, and that was a letdown of a match. But just Sting, he's always been a constant. He's been an inspiration for a lot of people, namely those in the church, because he's a Christian. I actually picked up his actually kind of bad made-for-TV How I Came to Christ movie, but it has footage from TNA in it, when he was wrestling Abyss. The less said about his WWE run, the better. He should have beat Triple H, but he's an icon. I didn't watch his Joker Sting run, but I watched him from 96 until 07. And his run in TNA, even when he came during the weekly pay-per-views, memorable, iconic.
Yes.
Oh, iconic, except not that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Although I love them.
I will say this: if you ever get a chance, you guys definitely go on YouTube. Just put in like Joker Sting. You'll find so many great clips of him. And I will say this: that there's literally one where he still kind of plays the Joker Sting, but he's also kind of like this crazed guy. He's in Power in TNA, and he's basically telling Madison Rayne that, oh, well, you know, Karen Jarrett, she had power because she had a contract, which you don't have. So the power that you have is zero, nada, zilch, goose egg, nothing. And she's just screaming like, you know, oh, she gave me her power. She's doing like a nice shrilly voice, and Sting is just mimicking that voice to the point where it's like, okay, this is annoying, but this is funny. So I would love to see Sting do something like that with the Iconics. If you guys get a chance, it's literally, I think, TNA, Madison Rayne gets demoted. I think that's the video. It's so funny. Definitely check that out. So, gonna have the finals for this episode of The Favorites, talking about a matchup from 2012. Now, a lot of people might remember 2012 because this is where I think that a lot of people started seeing that the wheels were falling off for CM Punk, especially considering, you know, he had to go heel, he had to deal with injuries, stuff like that. He's not in this. Discussion though, because the matchup that I picked for the 2012 did happen at WrestleMania, but it was between two huge icons in John Cena and The Rock. Their first meeting is still, in my opinion, their best, and is still one of my favorite matches because of the fact that these two guys definitely showcased what they could. Of course, I think a lot of people noticed that The Rock still had a little bit of rust in there, but even then, it's still the nostalgic feels of seeing Rock and Cena just be going out there and just putting on a great matchup. And it was in, you know, Florida. It was in The Rock's home state. I think it was even in his hometown, if I'm not mistaken. They built it up so well, and just the finish there, where John Cena, you know, he had an AA, Rock kicks out, and he's just like, I know we're here. I know this is WrestleMania, but that was a 2 count. Just that, and then him going into like the whole, I'm going to mock The Rock and do the people's elbow. He goes for it, and then he gets rock bottom by The Rock. 1, 2, 3, pins him. Rock gets the victory. And what could have been a really good story for Cena turned into one of those things where it's like a wavy kind of situation. Had they had Cena lose to everybody every way, yes, I would even dare say, losing to Mr. John Laurinaitis, that would have been one of those situations where it would have made more sense for him to have that redemption storyline. But people could say, well, he lost every single time in that year. It's like, no, he didn't. He didn't. He defeated Kane in Elimination Chamber. He lost to The Rock. He defeated Brock, which was stupid. He defeated Big Show, which was stupid. He entered CM Punk, majorly stupid. He won the Royal Rumble. Okay, up until that point, a lot of the booking was stupid. He won Money in the Bank. You have to remember, this was the year he won Money in the Bank, and he was the first guy to lose that Money in the Bank right. He lost it because Big Show attacked him during the matchup. It's like, yeah, great. So, John Cena is a part of history. Lovely. We needed that. So, yeah, just getting back to that, Rock versus Cena won. Still one of my favorite matchups, and I just love every single bit about it. Yes, I know, it's not the best matchup of the year, but it's still one of those matches that gives you the nostalgic feels. And I think that's what wrestling still needs nowadays, is the feels of nostalgia to just keep you synced in. And I'm hoping that's what we get with Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman.
I'd like this match better if it was actually once in a lifetime.
Yeah, I can't put it better than that. I really can't.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying about it.
Okay, so we are just about wrapped up with this edition of The Game Changer. But before we go, I did say earlier on that I was going to talk about a little mini fantasy rebooking for the Higher Power. And this was actually a suggestion that you brought up to me, Mr. Fretz. I believe that was you that said, rebooking the Higher Power. How would you do this? And I originally said, I can't do this because I think Adam Blampier kind of did it the best. There's nothing that I could do. And then I kind of thought about it. It's like, okay, well, what if we did something in a different direction? What if we took it in a direction of having that there was no higher power? Now, hang on. I know a lot of people are going to be saying, but there should be a higher power. There should be somebody there. Making it nobody is just really stupid. Is it, though? I mean, it's kind of like the Children of the Corn. You have that one kid who literally is just like, I can see this person, I can see this monster. And it's not really until, the very end you actually see that. With The Undertaker, he could literally be the guy who's just like, the higher power craves this. In actuality, he is the higher power. Because when you have somebody playing that role of higher power, you're basically insinuating that, there's somebody better, there's somebody stronger than The Undertaker. I want to eliminate that, because for me, as an Undertaker fan, I would much rather have it that he is indeed the guy that is the higher power. Bring back the stuff that he was able to do. Remember when he was able to just do like the appearing and disappearing in the rings? He brought down lightning. Bring that into the deal. Make it so that, he talks about the higher power and then people are realizing, oh shit, he is the higher power. And it's not until like later on he reveals it. I even have this idea that during his title match at the event that shall remain nameless because of obvious reasons, have it where Stone Cold Steve Austin has hit a stunner. He's crawling. He's going for a cover. Lights go out. Lights come back on. Undertaker's right behind him. Picks him up. Tombstone. Wins it that way. So where people are like, oh shit, he just defeated Austin without anybody. Make him that threat. And how I would actually do that is to tie in the whole X-Pac deal, because obviously him and Kane had that whole tag team title run deal. Have X-Pac have him turn Kane, have him turn into a human, have him realize that, what he's doing with The Undertaker is not cool, because Undertaker is doing these deals where he's basically, sacrificing people, or he's basically seeing that people are losing. He maybe has them beaten down, he has them flogged to make them more powerful. And now Kane is just like, okay, I'm getting tired of this shit. I need to stop this. So he's the one that takes on. This is where I kind of copy a little bit of what Adam Blampied did. The whole Buried Alive match between Kane and the Undertaker and Jake the Snake. Instead of Jake the Snake, have Kane be the one that does it, but with a small, tiny caveat. Have Kane be involved, but Triple H is the one who puts him in the grave, because it would make more sense for him when Undertaker comes back after all these nagging injuries. He comes back in the 2000 Judgment Day, he attacks Triple H. People are now going to be thinking, oh, he's getting him back for the whole deal at SummerSlam. There you go. It ties everything together. And maybe it could be a situation where we see a bonding situation between Kane and The Undertaker, where it's like, look, Kane, I get it. You were basically trying to help me, and I appreciate that. And they kind of have like a stronger bond because of it. When they're a part of like their ministry deal, Undertaker's kind of like the head honcho. He's like the god, and Kane is kind of sought at as like a peon. So now we start building that up where it's like, okay, you were right. Let's be brothers. Let's kick some ass. And we see the Brothers of Destruction just kill everybody. I think that's the only way you could describe 2000 Kane and Undertaker. Just have them kill everybody. Just literally have that. Have them have a few main event matches. I would not even break them up until they did that whole brand split deal, and where Kane could start being that monster deal, and he could probably bring that back. He's like, when you were a monster, when you were head of the ministry, that was where you were good. But then he mentions, of course, that we get to that eulogy back in 2004, I think it was, where he just talks about oh, you became human, you betrayed yourself. Yeah, and you have something to go back to. There you go. So that's kind of how I book it. It's kind of bits and pieces, but it's kind of how I would have booked the higher power deal. So, Mr. Fretz, I want you to be my first critic. Your thoughts?
I like it, dude. Sounds good to me.
All right, I got a thumbs up for Mr. Fretz. I'm okay with this. All right, so we've gone on for an hour and a half. Last week we did 2 hours, but we just went off the rails with that one. So, yeah. Thankfully for this one, we got everything we needed to say. So, with that being said, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Game Changer Podcast. Definitely check out the guys at the Wrestle Addict Radio family, at Fourth Wallcast, at Not_Opera, at Gifta Podcast, at KOTR_Podcast. You guys definitely check them out. They're really awesome. They are absolutely amazing. Check them out. You never know what's going to happen at Wrestle Addict Radio, because one thing is for sure, we keep wrestling real, but we also like to change the game. Mr. Fretz, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. That's all, man. Follow me at the legendary JF, pin tweet, Sick Kids Hospital, Bleeding Disorders Fund. You've heard my spiel about it already today, so please check it out and please donate. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time, whenever that may be, because we have Canada Day on the 4th of July. We're gonna work on either a different recording day or see what we can do for that, because it's the busy season in my town is here, but you will still get to hear my beautiful, sexy voice as much as possible.
Sounds like a plan, and guys, you may want to check out next week's episode, because I got an idea that might actually bring up some nostalgic feels and remind us that, hey, Monday Night Raw wasn't all that bad. What could I have planned? You'll just have to wait and see. So for Mr. Fretz, I've been NateFNGreat. You can follow me on Twitter at RealFNGame. Check us out also on our Facebook fan page for Wrestle Addict Radio, as well as the Game Changer Podcast. Be sure to also check us out here for the Game Changer Podcast. We are available on Spreaker.com, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, on YouTube, as well as on SoundCloud. And guys, Google Podcasts is always great, and we're also available right here on home at Anchor Podcast as part of the Wrestle Addict family. So for Mr. Fretz, I've been NateFNGreat. It is going to be absolutely glorious.
Glorious. No, I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Wrestle Addict Radio Network.
Hey, what's up, you guys? What is going on, everybody?
What up, fam?
Hey, it's me. What up, oozes?
What's up, guys? This is the Monday Night Delight.
Are you looking for a network that brings you all things pro wrestling? Then look no further. Wrestle Addict Radio brings you a varied source of wrestling content.
What's going on, guys? This is Willie T.
My name is Mr. Fretz.
This is your resident Smart Slayer.
Search for Wrestle Addict Radio on all major podcast platforms, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
Buzz, guys. My name is Kate Murphy of the Kings of the Ring podcast, and you are listening.
And you're listening. And you're listening. And you are listening.
And you are listening.
Get ready for a war, because you're listening.
Come join the war each and every week as we fight to keep wrestling real.
What's up, everybody? This is King Ricky Rose, and you are listening to Wrestle Addict Radio.